Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. My name is Rebekah Roulier. I use the she, her pronouns. I go by Becky or Coach Becky, and I'm the managing director at Doc Wayne. At Doc Wayne, we're a nonprofit that provides therapy that moves you, which includes our flagship program, sport-based therapy, and a global mental health training program, which has reached over 1 million young people. And for me, I am a coach at heart and a mental health clinician by training. And I'm also a mom of 4 children. So I'm just so grateful to be able to tell my story. I want to start a little bit by telling you who I was before my story began. I was a former 2-sport Division I student athlete. And a coach. I coached at the college and high school levels. And I was someone who deeply believed in the power of sport to build confidence, communication, resilience, and belonging. And I had a great deal of coach education. I knew how to plan practices, develop players, manage teams, and of course, motivate young people. But what I hadn't been taught, at least meaningfully, was how to respond when mental health entered the room. And certainly it does enter the room all of the time. I hadn't been trained for what to do when an athlete trusted me with something fragile. I didn't have language for emotional distress. I didn't have a framework for moments that mattered far more than performance. And this started to come together for me when 2 teenage girls approached me individually at 2 different moments. And one of those moments is seared into my brain. Certainly every woman's story matters and every girl's story matters, but this one moment I can still remember vividly in my mind's eye. When I was sitting there, the space felt familiar, ordinary even, until it didn't, until she started telling me all of these symptoms that she was experiencing and unraveling the story of her mental health journey. And she said, "Hey, coach, don't tell anyone about this." And then she began sharing, not even waiting for me to respond. And I remember feeling like the air had gone stale a bit, and the plants that were in the room were looking a little less green to me. Time slowed down as in my brain, I was trying to race ahead of her conversation, thinking, what do I say? What can I do to make this situation better? How do I make it not worse? Those were all going through my head as she was telling me this story of hers that she had been experiencing. And it wasn't the usual coach athlete conversation where they say, "How can I get more playing time, coach?" Or, "I'm not feeling that motivated. Give me the pep talk, coach." It wasn't that. She was really trusting me with a very fragile story. And the truth is, I didn't know what to say. I didn't have training for this. I didn't have a script, and I didn't have a framework to go off of. I didn't have the words. And the one thing that I knew as a 20-something-year-old coach is I did want to have the words, and I wanted to be better. I wanted to know what to say, and I wanted to know what to do. And this is where things changed for me. And I wanted to know how to become not only a better coach on paper, but I wanted to become a better adult for the young people that trusted me with their stories. Later, I learned that moments like this are far more common than we think. And when adolescents experience emotional distress, they are far more likely to disclose their mental health challenges to a trusted adult rather than a mental health professional. And the moment that I was experiencing with this young player mattered more than I realized. And what I came to understand is it wasn't just my experience. It wasn't just about me and this one player. It's across the youth sports sector, schools and community spaces. There are countless well-intentioned adults doing their absolute best, and they still feel unprepared, just like I did. They felt like, what do I say? What do I do? How do I make it better? Or how do I not make it worse when young people share what's really going on with them? And by adolescence, girls report significantly higher rates of anxiety and depression, more than boys, and these gaps widen during middle and high school. And at the same time, girls leave sport at nearly twice the rate of boys, with the steepest drop happening between ages 11 and 14, which is where these two young people that I was talking to fell between. That overlap isn't a coincidence. Sport is often celebrated, as I loved to play it when I was in my early years, as a safe place, as a protective space, and it absolutely can be. But it becomes unsafe when adults don't know how to respond to vulnerability. And I, as someone who loved kids and supported kids, had not been trained for that. More often, people don't know what to say. And I want to highlight that being an unsafe space doesn't always look dramatic. More often, it looks subtle. It can look like silence when a young person opens up. So they say something and they're met with nothing. It can look like minimizing, like it's not that bad, or it's okay, everything will be fine. It looks like fixing, jumping straight to solutions to ease our own discomfort as adults. And research tells us that perceived emotional safety, not just physical safety, which is often talked about in sport, is one of the strongest predictors of whether girls stay engaged in sport or not. And when young people feel dismissed in moments of disclosure, they are significantly less likely to seek help again. So what feels like a small moment to us as adults, or the coaches hearing these thoughts and concerns from a young person, can be a defining moment in these young people's lives, whether they feel that sport and systems in general are safe or not. This is how girls don't just leave sport. This is how they stop asking for help in general. Over time, I came to see these moments a little bit differently. I became a licensed mental health clinician and a mental health and sport trainer, an educator. And it's such a gift to meet all the coaches that are out there today. And when a young person trusts me with their truth, it's not just a problem to solve, it's a gift and an invitation. And it can be that way for all coaches.
Wow, Rebekah, you really have your work cut out for you. And especially in dealing with young girls and having to build that trust. Now, what was going through your mind when you realized that you didn't know what to say? Because I think a lot of adults find themselves in that space.
I didn't know what to say because I was unprepared and not educated in that space. But what I knew for sure was I wanted to be better. And I cared so deeply for that athlete that I wanted to do whatever was next for me in my professional journey. And so what translated for me was I started to look for more coach education and ended up on the path of becoming a licensed mental health clinician. And I had a great professor who sat me down and said, I think you're in the wrong field. I think you want to build people, not win games. And that's how my journey changed from hearing these two stories.
That's interesting. So why do you think so many well-meaning adults respond too quickly when young people disclose something vulnerable?
Yeah, it's a really natural response for people who are caring individuals is we feel a little level of discomfort within our body when we hear hard things, and we want to jump to helping and we want to jump to fixing. Especially athletic types are very action oriented and action motivated, but really what is most helpful, and I'll talk a little bit about this in the framework I'm going to leave folks with, is to listen and to validate the experience of the person that's in front of you and to use your full self to be present with them. It's not necessarily your job to fix the situation. The person in front of you is really seeking out human connection and wanting to be in that space with you and be heard and seen as a full person.
So I remember when we talked, you said that you often say, listen with your whole body.
Yeah.
What does that look like exactly in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I wasn't listening with my full body to you, I might be turned away or over here. But if you were sharing something really deep, I would lean in slightly. I would open up my shoulders. And when you speak, I would nod. And I can also underline the words that you say. So I might say, what I heard you say is this, or you know, this word really resonated with me. You said you're powerful, or you're brave, or you're scared, or did it mean that you meant that you need support? Those are ways of checking for understanding or underlining words, but also showcasing that your body is open to listen. And in this day and age, a simple act of putting down your phone in front of you so that they can see that your phone is away from you is also very powerful.
That's a very good reminder. So why is validation so difficult for people, even when they care deeply?
Yeah. Again, what I would suggest as a second step after listening with your whole body is to validate, because when you share something deep with another person, whether that you're the student athlete with the coach, or you're just friend to friend, parent to child, whatever the relationship is, you're seeking feedback. You want to see what the other person responds with, and you need to know that you are heard and seen and not judged. Most of the reason people share things is not actually to get the next step, which is the action. They just want to be heard. So what you can do is, after you listen, you can show them that you heard them. And that can be by reiterating what they said, or by just naturally naming what the outcome was. So for these mental health conversations, it's really helpful to say, thank you for sharing your story with me. That's a simple response that can apply to a lot of situations. Or, I commend your bravery, or I hear courage in your story. That is a non-judgmental, supportive, strength-based response that can come from anyone and be incredibly powerful and doesn't need to fix anything.
Yeah, yeah. So how can validating someone's experience change the outcome of that conversation?
They don't feel so alone.
Yeah.
And they also don't feel so stigmatized
Mm,
because the words that left their mouth are sort of out there in the ether and another human heard them, and it's still okay. It's still okay to interact with the listener, and no one has come up with this huge judgment for them. And so
yeah.
I think a lot of times when someone discloses a mental health concern for the first time, there's a lot of fear inside them of what people will think. What will people think of me when I say that I'm experiencing depression or anxiety or suicidality, or even that I don't feel like myself? And
Mm,
just to get a few head nods back or, wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, makes them feel
difference.
like they can carry on another day.
Yeah. So what harm can be caused by rushing to solutions or giving advice, do you think?
Yeah. So we talked a lot about girls today. This applies to boys, to the full spectrum of sexuality and identity too. But I know we had centered a lot on girls today.
Mm,
It's really difficult when you work up the courage and the bravery to finally share with someone what's truly going on with you, and they brush right past how difficult it was for you to say something, and they suggest action steps. And maybe
okay.
you're not ready for that. Or
Mm,
maybe that's not the whole intention behind your conversation that day. Maybe you just wanted, again, to be heard. Or maybe you just wanted someone to listen to you and you
yeah,
hadn't contemplated action yet. So that can feel almost like a second mountain has gone up right in front of you.
yeah.
And now you not only have to feel like, wait, was I heard? What did they think of what I said? But now I have another journey to go to do this action step. It can
Mm,
feel very difficult. And so it's definitely even more challenging between the coach and the athlete because there are power dynamics.
yes.
So if the athlete shares with a coach who, regardless of identity, will hold power in terms of playing time and just the dynamics of the relationship, it is almost like they're implying that you should take these action steps and you
Yeah,
should do this, with skipping the validation step of, I care about you,
yeah, yeah.
see you, and you as a person are important to me.
That is so true. Wow. And these are little things that sound obvious, but are not really obvious when you're in the middle of things. So it's really nice that you're bringing this to our awareness. So, how did your journey from coaching into mental health work
Mhm.
transform the way that you see leadership?
Yeah, I see parallels between coaching and mentoring and leadership. I think in working in executive leadership in the nonprofit sector, there
Yes.
are many similarities that can run parallel.
Mhm.
And especially in working in the partnership sector, there are some great groups like the Morgan Stanley Alliance for Children's Mental Health
Mm,
and their support of Doc Wayne, where you don't want to be alone in this work. You don't
mm,
want to strike out alone in trying to be innovative and be supportive of young people, because the adults need support. The adults need the partners to have their back and to do things like listen to us and to validate us and to just be there to say, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. And so us as executive leaders have those folks like Morgan Stanley. And then as executives, we need to provide that safe space for our teams to say, we see you as people, and then we validate you. And we have to provide that space before we insert our action plans and before we take the next steps as an organization.
Wow. So why is sports such a powerful and sometimes risky environment for mental health, especially for girls?
Yeah, so girls can absolutely thrive in the sports environment. You see some great studies out of the Women's Sports Foundation identifying that many girls who had a multi-sport experience and a good relationship with their coach go on to become managers, directors, and C-suite leaders. I feel like I'm part of that pipeline, and I appreciate my sport experience from that. But it's not always the case. So it can be, or maybe, depending on the environment. And so sport can be all of those things and those great things for decreasing depression and anxiety, and also increasing confidence, self-esteem, and empathy. But you have to have a coach who is creating a safe emotional and physical environment for the girls, and also caring about them as a person. And also representation matters. So I don't know if you're a soccer fan, but there's been some real increase in BIPOC women on the U.S. women's national team. And we just really celebrated Crystal Dunn as an example of this. Crystal Dunn is a woman of color, and she was on the United States women's national team. And you see all this outpouring of support for her now because she just retired. And all the players who are on the team now were like, I didn't know I could do it until I saw Crystal. And that's the type of thing that can happen for girls and women, is we see what can happen for us when we see the person in front of us. But we have to create those channels for folks. And from a therapeutics perspective, given we do sport-based therapy, it's just such a stigma reducer. And it helps people feel comfortable and gain access to the clinical skills that we all need. But again, like, you have to have the right facilitator and the right person to create the environment to make it all happen, the magic happen.
Wow. So what are some of the invisible barriers that girls face in sports that adults often overlook?
The invisible barriers. I think it depends on your community and your culture. But to name a few that might not be thought of in certain contexts is things like sports bras are very much needed in certain parts of the world and hold girls back from participation. In other parts of the world, there are challenges with cultural and societal expectations of girls. So what is the role that a girl or a woman should play in society, and how does that fit with sport? There are other challenges with access and how much they are able to access certain sports. Here in the United States and other countries like Australia or UK, there are different challenges, right? There's different challenges around female coaches. So there's a very big need for more female coaches in the United States. And so we have a lot of access, but not a lot of female representation in both the coaching profession, but also at the sport leadership level. And so we have a lot of things to work on to make sport all that it can be for girls.
That's interesting, because you wouldn't think that. A lot of times we're under the perception that the United States is light years ahead in terms of women in those roles. So that's interesting to hear. So what role do parents, coaches, and community leaders play in creating psychologically safe environments for young athletes?
Sure. Two different answers, but parents just have so much power, I think, and they may not believe so, but youth athletes spend so much time with their parents, either being transported to their sport of interest or leaving or just being in their family home. And I think the philosophy of their family or their parents is really important to how they think about sport and how sport falls into their life and how they process their sport experiences. So when you have a big loss or you have a win or you lose, but you had a shining moment, how your parent or guardian reflects that back to you is tremendously important, especially as a girl. And those conversations where you're pulling out of the driveway, going to the game, those are the moments, right? Where your parent can say, I'm proud of you no matter what, or no matter how the outcome is, you persevered. Or I love you regardless of what type of swimmer you are. And then the community at large, I was just in another session about girls in sport, and this came up, is that when in the United States, we're trying to build the number of female coaches, and they don't have to be the stereotypical athletic person who adds to the strategy of the team, because you might already have that person, but how can other females insert themselves into the coaching team to add support to the other girls? And they might not be a coach just now, but they might be a coach later, like they might be in the not yet bucket. And so they can be part of the community support structure for these girls if the current coaches are two males, let's just say, but they could be a coaching team member if that is the way that the community is set up for the girls. And there are plenty of opportunities to build the psychological safety of those girls by giving them someone to check in with.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I know you were going to share a framework, and I think I might have jumped in before you did.
That's okay.
Do you share the framework that you have for the community?
Yeah, we already talked through this a little bit, but I was going to suggest that first you listen with your whole body, which means that you have to put the clipboard down or the whistle down or whatever you're doing. You make eye contact and you slow down your breathing. So sometimes you can get caught up in the moment of whatever's going on, and slow down your words. So when you are speaking quickly and your athlete is also agitated or anxious, if you slow down your words, it often helps them mirror your words and relax. Second, you want to validate before acting. So reflect what you hear without judgment and name their courage and name their bravery. It takes so much to share about what's going on with you mentally. Tell them that. Don't just think it, tell them that. And then let them feel seen before anything else happens. So don't assume that they're telling you because they want action, but center their humanity and see them as their full selves. And then third is sometimes coaches are told really concerning things and we need to seek assistance together. So we want to tell them that they don't have to do this alone. and we are there with them. So you model help seeking with them, not for them. And what's powerful is that studies on protective factors show that just one emotionally attuned adult can buffer against long-term mental health risks. So you can be that one person. And that's it. You don't have to be a trained, licensed clinician to do these things. You just have to care about people, and you have to stay and listen and validate when someone shares their truth with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I've got your website at the bottom of the screen. If anybody out there wants to reach out, who has young teenagers, and you're looking after both boys and girls, correct? It's not just the girls.
That's right. So our website is docwayne.org, DOCWAYNE.org. And we service we provide direct service ages 5 to 18 in the greater Boston area. And you can email us at info@docwayne.org. However, outside of the greater Boston area in the US, we have a global training program, and that services adults who are providing supportive services in the athletic space and outside the athletic space to be better supports, like I talked about. So if you want to be better for your young person, like I experienced, I was like, I don't know what to say. How can I be better? We have trauma-informed care trainings, intersectionality trainings on LGBTQIA youth and mental health, BIPOC youth and mental health trainings, as well as our replication and scale training. So how do you do sport-based therapy in your community? And then we also offer consulting on sports and mental health. If none of the above fit, you can contact us, and we're happy to help and support your community.
That is wonderful. Wow, thank you so much for coming online and sharing this incredible organization with us today. A lot of parents, caregivers have concerns around mental health, and you're working with high achievers, kids who are under a lot of pressure.
They are
needing that support. So it's wonderful to know that your organization exists. Thanks so much, Rebekah.
Thank you for having me today, and I wish everyone the greatest day.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share these stories to uplift you, inspire you, energize you, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are a parent with sporty kids, if you are a caregiver and you need help and support, here's an organization that can help you all the way. Or if you know somebody who does have a young person who is struggling with mental health issues, share this podcast, tag a friend. You just never know who you're going to help when you share information as well. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Rebekah, thank you so much for showing up today. Bye for now, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her